Be me 20 years old. Friends joked about crazy rules. They said one full day. Say yes to everything offered. I laughed but secretly agreed. Next morning challenge had begun. Friends pointed at random strangers. Normally I would walk away, but rules forced me closer. I sat at their table. Faces turned full of confusion. My friends tried not laughing. I pretended like it's normal. Heart was beating too fast, but my smile stayed wide. They asked if we knew. I answered with bold confidence. Told stories that made sense. They listened though still suspicious. My friends nearly lost control. I felt my cheeks burning. This was just the start. My yes day had begun. After lunch, they wanted more. Someone joked about free rides. They pointed at city buses. Normally I would laugh away, but rules chained me tighter. So I said yes instantly. We climbed into the bus. My friends dared me harder. Sing something for the crowd. My stomach dropped right away. Still my mouth said yes. I stood and looked around. Faces turned curious and bored. I started humming one line, then louder till words formed. People stared, some laughed softly. Others clapped like it was real. My friends exploded with laughter. I wanted floor to swallow, but I kept singing proudly. Inside, I felt strangely alive. The bus stopped near downtown. We jumped out still laughing. My voice echoed in memory. Friends dared me once again. Asked the vendor for discount. I nodded and walked forward. The man stared unimpressed hard. I smiled and asked politely. To my shock, he agreed. My friend shouted in disbelief. I carried food with pride. Inside, my nerves were shaking. Every yes pushed me deeper. Felt like I lost control. Yet part of me enjoyed. Life felt raw and unpredictable. People looked at me differently. Some admired, some thought crazy. I couldn't tell which anymore. But thrill kept me moving. We wandered into side streets. Friends spotted a tattoo shop. They grinned with wicked smiles. Say yes to a tattoo. My chest tightened with panic. But I forced my smile. Rules were rules, no excuses. So I walked inside trembling. Artist asked what I wanted. My friends shouted random nonsense. I laughed but nodded anyway. Needle buzzed against my skin. Pain burned sharp but quick. I stared at fresh ink. Tiny mark now forever mine. Friends screamed louder than fireworks. I felt dizzy but alive. This yes day grew dangerous. But I couldn't back down. After tattoo we kept walking. Friends searched for next challenge. They spotted a street performer. Join him, dance right now. Crowd was already surrounding closely. My stomach nodded with fear, but lips still whispered yes. Music blasted through small speaker. I jumped into the circle. Moved clumsy but with energy. People clapped, cheered, shouted encouragement. Heat rushed all through me. For a moment fear vanished. I laughed and spun wildly. Friends filmed every single move. I knew it looked ridiculous, but crowd loved every second. Adrenaline pumped louder than shame. This yes rule consumed me. Evening lights began to glow. Friends weren't done with dares. They pointed at tall building. Climbed to rooftop with us. Security sign warned keep out. My chest pounded with dread. Still I whispered quiet yes. We sneaked up metal stairs. Each step echoed too loudly. Hearts raced with heavy tension. Finally we reached the rooftop. City stretched endless before us. Wind whipped hair and clothes. I stood shaking but smiling. Friends shouted we were legends. I felt both scared, thrilled. Rules had dragged me this far. Part of me wanted more. Part of me begged stop. Night settled across the city. Friends suggested one last challenge. Tell stranger deepest hidden secret. My breath caught in throat. This dare felt too heavy. But yes slipped out anyway. We found someone on bench. They looked tired but kind. I sat shaking beside. Words spilled before I planned. Confessed fear of being alone. Confessed worry about constant pretending. The stranger nodded slowly, listening. Their silence felt strangely comforting. My friends were suddenly quiet. Jokes died, replaced by stares. They saw raw side exposed. I felt naked but lighter. After secret silence hung heavy, friends no longer teased loudly. Their eyes showed quiet respect. I felt different inside too. All day yes controlled me. But here truth freed me. The stranger finally whispered gently. Sometimes yes means hurting yourself. Their words struck deep inside. Friend shifted awkwardly beside me. I realized this whole game was more than silly dares. It cracked open hidden fears. It forced me to face the parts one always avoided. I wasn't just clown today. I was raw and vulnerable. Walking home streets felt different. Friends were quieter than usual. We laughed but more softly. Something deep had changed tonight. I learned yes has power. It opens doors and wounds. Sometimes it brings pure joy. Sometimes it burns like fire. But every yes shaped me, showed sides I always hid. As lights flickered around us, I felt strangely grateful inside. This day carved into memory. A story I will carry. Have you lived moments like this? Would your friends push you further? What secrets would you reveal? Drop a like and comment.